Hi, this video is going to show you how to create a HTML form and then post the data from that form into a Firebase database. So I'm just going to show you how this works first. So I've got a HTML form here and I can enter some data in there. So I'll just say George and age 67 and occupation teacher. And you can see there's an alert pop-up box to say the data is stored successfully. So I can then click OK and we'll add another person there. So we'll say Mary, aged 23, student, submit. So that data at the moment is being posted into a cloud database called Firebase. And that's very useful because it means you can store data and also retrieve data at a later time. So if you think in the case of here of maybe a registration system or possibly for a doctor's surgery or entrance for university, for example, being able to collect data, gather data, and then retrieve it is a useful function. So how does this work? So I'm going to move over to Firebase now, and I've created in Firebase, I've created a project here called Form to Firebase. I'm going to open this. And inside the Form to Firebase project, I have a real-time database, which I can click on. And then we can see here that there is a table here called users, and then each table then there's a record that's gone in. So here's the records that I've been posting, and the two last records which I posted there was George and also Mary. So how do we therefore get from posting from a form and populating a database? So I'm going to go over that process now. So the first step is to come into Firebase here, and I'm going to click on the Firebase icon, and you can access it through console.firebase.google.com. And this is a cloud database, and it's a very powerful, robust database. It means you can store lots and lots of data and retrieve it using standard JavaScript. So when you signed up to Firebase with your Google account, you're going to click on Add a Project. And you're going to create a new project name. So we'll call this one Insert Data. And then click Continue. And continue again. Select an account, choose your default account for Firebase, and then create a project. So this will take a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause the video as it does that. Okay, so the project is now ready. So I'm just going to click on the Continue button. And at the moment, we've got no real-time database set up, so we need to create one inside our project. So we're in the project dashboard here for the Insert Data. So first thing you do is go to the Build menu on the left, choose Real-Time Database. And then hit Create Database. And when you're creating the database, select the location closest to you. So I'm choosing Belgium and choosing Next. We can start this in test mode and choose Enable. So here's our database set up. There's no data in there at the moment. So the next thing we need to do is just get the connection JavaScript code that will connect our form up to this database area here. So what I need to do is click on the cogwheel icon in the project overview and choose Project Settings. And we're going to create a web app for this project because we're using a website. So I'm going to choose the HTML code icon here. And we can call this web app Insert Data. And we do not need Firebase hosting, so we're just going to click Register App here now. And we'll just ignore this step for a second. We're just going to hit Continue to Console. Okay, so we have a web app ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab some code from the web app that's going to help us connect to our database. So we're going to use what's called the CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network. And the Content Delivery Network means that it loads all the Firebase libraries for us in a cloud storage that Google host. So it means we don't have to load the libraries ourselves. So what we're going to do is choose CDN, and then we're just going to copy that code there using the copy icon in the bottom of the screen. So I'm now ready to paste that into my REPL project and start making the connection between my form and the database. I'm just going to pause the video for a second whilst I then set up a new REPL project. Okay, so I'm in REPL and I'm creating a new REPL here. I'm going to choose HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I'm going to create a new REPL project. So I'm just going to call it register users. And then hit create REPL. Okay, so that creates our basic REPL project with a hello world in it. So we can just delete that line to start with. And the next thing is we've just pasted our, we copied our data from our Firebase scripts, just make sure that is actually copied. And come back then to your REPL project, and we're going to paste that into our script.js file. Now, at the moment, you can see that everything doesn't look correct, and that's because we have the script type equals module up here, which we don't include in the JavaScript file. So I'm going to delete that line, and also delete the closing script. And it also says the value you pasted looks like a secret, store it securely using our secrets feature. Well, I'm just going to press return to paste this anyway. So and then that's now ready to go. The next thing is in your index page, we just need to change the script source, and we just need to add here that it's a type equals module. So we need that just to allow the Firebase to correctly load. And the other thing which we're going to do is I'm going to probably move this script source to the bottom of the page, because I want all my form data to load first and then populate the script afterwards. So I'm just going to paste that in at the bottom of my script, and also delete this code here, which I don't need. Okay, so I'm going to put my form into this area here. So I've created in my GitHub account the code that you can copy paste into this project so you can get it working. So I'm just going to move over to my GitHub page here, and I'm going to copy over my first code here, which is the form itself. So I've got the user registration, H1, all the way down to the button. I don't need the script tags, I already have that, and I don't need body and HTML. So I'm just copying there lines 12 to 27, and I'm going to paste that into the body. And we'll just run this. So that creates my little basic form. So what you notice here is that I've got labels and I've got inputs, and each input importantly has an ID that allows us to target with a variable. So there's an input for the age, which is called ID age, and there's a input for the select option here, which again has the ID occupation. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now if I run this, nothing happens yet. So there's no data being pushed into the database yet, and there's no alert box saying that everything's working. So we're going to work on getting the connection up now by using a function. Okay, so I'm going to move into my script page here, and we need to add a few little things to the Firebase configuration here just to make sure everything works. So again, in my GitHub page, I've created a script.js file here, and what you notice is that I've got lines 20 to 22 that we need to just import these libraries, which is get database, set, reference, get child update, remove, push, and increment. At the moment, we're just using the push library to push data, and so we're just going to include those two lines there. I'm going to paste those in here, and then underneath that I'm just creating another constant variable called db is get database, and again I'm just going to paste that in underneath here. So that then is the end of my Firebase connection, so I'm just going to put in end of Firebase connection, and then underneath this then we're going to put in our function to insert the data. So again, from my JavaScript file that I've pre-prepared, you can see here I've got a function called insert data. So I'm just going to copy this and go through what this all means. So copy that into your JavaScript file. And let's just go through it. So we've got a function called insert data here. And we've got three variables. The first one is the name variable, where we're going to go document get element by ID name. So the name value is being taken from our form, our input box here. So that's the name. So we're getting the name value from that. Same thing with age. We're getting the age value, and then occupation also the same thing. Now this line here, what this does is the push, and then it references, so it's using the push library, which is here, what we imported, and it's referencing the database, and we're giving the database a name actually called users. Now we could change that to something else if we like, but we'll leave it as users for now. And the data that we're pushing in the form of a like a JSON or a kind of dictionary type setup is a name, which is going to be the name of the column, if you like, in the database, and then we grabbing the variable, and then the age column and the age variable and the occupation column, the occupation variable. So they're all going into the database, and then if they all get pushed successfully, we're going to get an alert box saying data stored successfully, and if not, it's going to catch any errors and give us an alert box with the error and hopefully tell us what the error is. And finally, outside of the function here is I've put an event listener which is listening for a click on the insert data. So in other words, it's listening for a click, sorry, on the insert button, and if it finds that there's been a click, it's then going to run the insert data function. So that's very important, and that's outside of the function. So in other words, the code will load Firebase, jump down to here, and then if it finds there's been a click, it's then going to run this function here. Okay, so we can now just test this out and make sure it works. So I'm going to hit run now. So we'll add in a new name. So we'll say Freddie, and age is 34, and he's a teacher, and we'll hit submit. And you can see then it's create the pop-up, data stored successfully. I can then go over to my insert data project, my Firebase, and the way I find the data now is I need to click in real-time database here. That will open it here. You can see there's my users table. I call them tables. We look inside the data there, and we can see we've got a record being stored here with a unique ID reference, a bunch of long characters there, and inside that we can then see that we've got age 34, Freddie, and teacher. So I can keep on adding data now to my data here. So we'll say Sarah, age 56, other. And again, I see my new record has come in straight away, age 56 Sarah other. Okay, thank you for watching.